All right, guys, so what I'm going to work on today is laying out the track plan on top of the cork. And as you can see over here, we are right by the lift out section. And I've got the initial 27-inch radiuses drawn there. Obviously, I've got the lift out of here, but the rest of the curves are also on top of the lift out. What I did there for a little bit of extra strength on the lift out is I put a piece of 1/4 inch plywood on top of it rather than cork. It'll add a little bit of extra strength to that and keep it a little bit more square. So I've done that. I'll show you that a little bit later on. But what I'm going to start with here on this side is coming down the main line and also the yard lead, which starts off of this right there, off of that radius. So I'm going to be coming straight down there, and then I've also got to do some 24-inch radius curves at the other end of the table. So if you'll recall from the previous video, these radii over here are both 27. So again, I've got the exterior, or not the exterior, but the wall at the edge of the table that enabled me to set the edge of my trammel up against there to keep it steady, and then run the radius. So again, these are 27. The 24s are at the other end, so what I had to do there was I had to shorten my trammel down 3 inches so that my outside radius for the main line now is going to be 3 inches in from the wall. So, and again, it's at 25 because my pivot point back here is at 1. So I'm at 24-inch radius from here back to the pivot point. So with that cut, I'm going to go ahead and set this up to draw those two curves. One other thing that I've done here is I've placed the turnouts for the yard lead here. So you can see where that starts, and then there's one back over there, which is the end of the yard lead coming through. And then this turnout right here, the yard lead comes off of the straight edge of it and continues over there, and then the yard ladder begins here. So I've gone ahead and laid those turnouts on here just to see where things are going to fall. I'm only going to have, it looks like, probably 4 yard tracks and then a storage track coming back this way for locomotives and such. There may also be enough room back in here to get a short, a second siding, if you will, maybe caboose storage, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm looking at. I may have a couple of extra turnouts if anybody's looking for them. I'll put a note down in the video which turnouts are extra and what I may have up for sale. So if anyone needs turnouts, stay tuned for the end. I'll be back here in just a second. All right, so sorry about the lighting conditions back here. Hopefully this will show up well. So I've got the trammel in place. I cut off the extra length at the end. So what I've done is I've put the 25-inch mark, which is the end of my 24-inch radius. This is the main line here. So 25 inches is there. And back over here, I've got the other end of the trammel up against the wall. So that's going to end up my radius curve here, 3 inches away from the wall. The reason that this end of the trammel is sticking beyond the end of the table, if you'll recall, I've got closet trim here, which is taking up that extra inch. So having this mark to be able to set on the main line lets me know that my radius is in the right place. So let me get the camera back on the tripod. Okay, so hopefully all of this will show up, and I'm not going to be blocking the shot, but here's my Sharpie. I'm going to set it inside the arm of my trammel. Make sure it's in there nice and tight. Make sure it matches up. And I'm going to run it now. right, so sorry about my backside being in front of the camera. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to extend the yard lead from that end of the yard down here, get it in place first, and then I'll set up to draw the second radius. All right, so now I've got the trammel set up for the second radius, second 24-inch radius. So back here, this is where my pen is going to go in. This is where it's going to start. And right here is the start of the yard ladder. So you can see it's fairly close to where that radius curve starts, but I think we'll be good there. Anyway, so I'm going to do this now, and I've got the clamp. You can see it's back here on this other arm. That's the only access I had to the edge of the table before I could clamp. So this is in place, and basically I've lined up the spot where the pen goes. It's right back there. And then over here, what I've done is the distance between the main line and the yard lead back there at that end of the trammel, distance between the two is 2 inches, just like here. So I've got the edge of the trammel there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's sitting on 27, which would be 26, and my pen will hit up here on 25, so I'll be right at 2 inches apart back there. And then there's a turnout, which you can see right over here, maybe, which is the end of the yard lead, and it goes back into the main line. So that's, obviously it's not sitting exactly where it needs to go, but you get the idea. All right, let me draw this curve. And I apologize, I may be right in front of the camera, but we'll go with it. All right, so pen's in place, holding this end. Oh, just lost the pen. Let's try this again. The trick is don't press too hard on this arm because you'll press the pen out. All right, so that should be good. Come back around here one more time just to make sure we have a nice line that we can see. All right, so one thing I'm going to do just to extend my curve a bit further is try and hold this all in place and just swing that arm out a bit. So I can complete my radius there. All right, and let me do the same on the other curve. Well, actually that's actually pretty good. I don't want to mess with that because I've already moved the trammel. So I should be good though. I think that's going to be great for where those lines need to be. The back one is actually, the more I look at it, it's pretty straight right now. So that should be good for the edge of the curve. And then, the edge of the inside yard lead is good there. This turnout is going to sit somewhere in here to connect those two together. And, I'm repeating myself, but, the yard lead comes back into the main line. So I'm going to continue drawing lines. The only other 24-inch radius I have is back over here in this other corner over here. So I'll be drawing the main line in 3 inches from the back wall there on the right. And then once I get up to that corner, I'll be doing another 24-inch radius, but it's the same process that you just saw. So I'll come back when I've got all of the main lines drawn in. All right, so I got the camera back on the tripod here, and I've been working on the track layouts, just trying to figure out where everything's going to land. I've got my radius. I don't know if you can see it back in the corner over there, but the 24-inch radius is in just beyond the clamps. And then coming down against the wall, I've got in the plan two background buildings that are supposed to go there, Heritage Furniture and the Commissary Freight Transfer Building. So what I've done is opened up the kits and set the bases in place over there against the wall, and then plotted out where the track has to go. So as you may or may not know, most walls are not plumb. So from the top of the train table there up to about the top of those pictures of those buildings, the wall is out of plumb. It's out about 1/4 of an inch back. So the top of the pictures would be proud of the table by 1/4 of an inch. So what I've had to do is just kind of hold the sides in place of the buildings and set the bases on the table. Make sure that the sides of the buildings, have enough room to fit, so that they're not sideways, if you will, tilting forward. And what what I had to do there was actually move them forward about 1/4 of an inch from the back wall at the tabletop. So all that being said, the siding that services those two facilities there has to be 4 1/4 inches from the wall. So I have that laid in, and then just towards the camera from there, 2 inches is where the main line is going to run. So it's 6 1/4 from the wall. The radius, if you recall, over there on the right side ends at 3. So it's going to be a slight S curve coming off of the curve before it hits the turnout, and then moving on from there. So I think I have enough distance. There's probably 3.5, maybe 4 feet between where the curve ends at the right side and where the turnout needs to be. It's probably closer to 3 feet, so it should be a very gradual curve in there. Where you see the boxcar sitting, there are a couple of sidings there to service an industry, and I think it is a plastic pellet transfer facility, an injection molding company that's going to go in there. So where the clamps are is about where the main building sits, and then to the left of the clamps, down there a bit, is where the plastic pellet silos are going to sit. So I've just got a boxcar in there right now, judging the space between the two sidings. You can see there's a turnout laying on the roadbed there. That's the turnout that services those two sidings, and then there's another gradual curve that happens, another gradual S curve that goes back and connects with a curved turnout sitting right in the corner of the layout there. You can see it right in front of the end of the level, and I've kind of freehanded some center track lines. So let me get the camera off the tripod and take you over there. So I've sort of had to freehand the center of the track line in here. You can see it coming off the curved turnout there, and then it comes up and it hits this turnout here, which is the siding for the two background buildings, and then it goes on down the line there. Coming off the other side of the turnout, there is a free-handed line here, which is another gentle S curve, and this is the actual line here that's going to come in to this turnout here, which services those two sidings. So I think I've got this free-handed fairly well. The curves don't look too sharp. There's a big sweeping curve here that connects into that middle turnout. So there's going to be 3 of them right together here. I may put a little bit more space between them, but this turnout here services an industry that has 2 sidings down this direction. Obviously this turnout branch here is what feeds this. This is the main line here, main line coming through here. This part of the turnout here is the start of the yard lead, and I've kind of free-handed, if that's a word, the track center line here into my radius. So Anyway, I think I've got the majority of the main line and the yard lead down. The next big task is going to be the yard ladder, which, I don't think that's going to be too difficult. Basically, I'll just connect the turnouts together and see where they land, and then draw the yard tracks from there. There is a huge sweeping curve that starts about here somewhere, and it runs right up here down through the center of the peninsula. I don't have that one drawn in yet, but this feeds the lumber facility. If you remember, on the plan, here is the peninsula. There's the start of that sweeping curve. So it starts here, immediately goes into a second turnout, which feeds this line, a couple of turnouts here, and then there's another siding that goes this way. So that'll be the next part that I draw up, and I'm going to start on that and see how far we get.